Community connections, CKMS. Local sounds, thoughts, passions, and success. Celebrate local, your neighbor's got a story to tell. Community connections, CKMS.
Happy Monday, Waterloo Region. You're listening to CKMS Community Connections. My name is Bob Jonkman. This is the episode for the 22nd of June, 2026. Got Cody Innes in the studio.
Hello, everyone. Excited to be here. First time on radio, so bear with me as we go through it.
From the Community Energy Development Cooperative. We'll be talking to him in just a bit. Right now we have a request, Brother, Brother by Josh O'Dare.
In the lands of the pines, he said, brother, brother, grab a shovel. Some things will rise, others will settle. Lay his body 6 feet below, where the low never goes. Some things you carry, some things you don't. Some truth you tell, others you won't. Blood is blood, dirt is deep. What we bury, we're told to keep. Don't tell a soul, don't tell anyone. Take this with you till you're dead and gone. Blood is blood, dirt is deep. What we bury, we're told to keep. Don't tell a soul, don't tell anyone. Take this with you till you're dead and gone. It goes. Johnny, Johnny, you can't come around. This town hears every sound. You must disappear to the dawn. Don't come back once you're gone. So I light a match just to watch it burn. I didn't look back, didn't even turn. I'll say goodbye for now. Go live your life, I'll stick around. Some things you carry, some things you don't. Some truth you tell, others you won't. Blood is blood, dirt is deep. What we bury, we're told to keep. Don't tell a soul, don't tell anyone. Take this with you till you're dead and gone. Blood is blood, dirt is deep. What we bury, we're told to keep. Don't tell a soul, don't tell anyone. Take this with you till you're dead and gone.
Josh O'Dare from Northern Ontario. That was Brother, Brother by request. In the studio with me is Cody Innes from the, gotta read this off the page here, Community Energy Development Cooperative. It's a mouthful.
Yeah, it can be a mouthful, so just I would go with either CEDCO for short or CED Co-op. I don't know if you're going to get into it, but just let the audience know kind of what we do.
Sure, go for it.
You know, we're a renewable energy cooperative based here out of Waterloo Region. What we do is we pool together our, investors and members' funds, and we go out and build solar projects at scale. So what we're looking to do is, take my money, Bob, my money, yours, Bob, and go out and build a larger project than we could do on ourselves. And so the whole goal is obviously to promote more renewable energy within, Waterloo Region and throughout Ontario here.
This is one step of me putting solar panels on my roof.
Yes, exactly. And part of the reason the co-op came up, we'll get into some of the reasons as to why, but we find a lot of people, went to go do that themselves and they realized, some people are doing it for the environmental reasons and other people are doing it for financial reasons. And usually your roof at your home is not the quickest payback. We found that a lot of people would, not do it. But then in the model that we've created, they've been able to, invest in solar and, we're able to put more solar up than they would have. They just put it up themselves.
Yeah. When you're saying that people were doing it for a financial incentive, it wasn't just saving money. There was the Ontario feed-in tariff, which gave people, the Ontario government paid people to have solar panels that were contributing to the grid.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know how much the audience would know about the FIT, but clearly you do know, Bob. So that was back in 2009, if my memory serves me correct.
And it's gone now.
Yeah, the Green Energy Economy Act, something like that. It's a little bit of a wordful, but yeah, it was a way in which, the 08 crisis, they were looking to create a new manufacturing and, new industry within Ontario. So they were paying people a set amount per kilowatt hour you produced. And really that's how we kind of came to be, actually, was through that actual program. So not sure, kind of your level of knowledge into it or not, but we can get into it, Bob.
Tell me anyway.
Yeah, exactly. So there was about 5 iterations of what they call the feed-in tariff. So I'll use the short forms called FIT. So feed-in tariff, and then there's something called the micro-FIT, which is just a smaller scale of the same program.
That'll be the homeowners.
Exactly. And so when the FIT 1 came out, FIT 1 was a roaring success for most people. Usually developers and large corporations were able to take advantage of it. So during FIT 2, the Ontario government really wanted to place a large emphasis on local ownership as well as Indigenous ownership. So what they did was they put in some stipulations to say, hey, if you wanted to be involved in FIT 2, there's got to be some sort of a community ownership model to it. And so that's actually how we came about to be. So a group of 5 founders of CED Co-op, Community Energy Development Cooperative. I will continue to use the short form, but CED Co-op. They came from the credit union space and the co-op space in general. Okay. So they were quite, into this area of, having this localized ownership. And so when they saw specifically the ability to build renewable energy projects in a community, fashion, that's what we did. So FIT contracts were being given out, and we created what is CED Co-op now, and we went ahead and got a bunch of FITs and micro-FIT contracts through all the iterations until they shut it down in 2018.
Yeah. So how does SEDCO make money now?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're about 118 projects. So 117 of those are actually FIT contracts or micro-FIT contracts.
Okay.
Not all of them did we build. Some of them have been acquired through the years as we've grown. We started in 2012. We're now 14 years deep for 2026. And now there's a new type of mechanism in Ontario in which you can make money. And that's really only through what's called a power purchase agreement. So PPA for short form. That's basically where we can produce electricity on someone's roof and then sell them back that power at a set rate. So to really simplify it, we basically become their utility, except for the fact of what we can offer is we're generating that electricity locally. It's clean, it's green, and it's right on source. And we actually did that here within the community of Kitchener at Rockway Mennonite Collegiate School. Okay. So we just actually turned that project on in 2025. We've had a full year of being in what is this PPA.
Okay. So you just raised a bunch more questions than you've answered. You say that you're not building solar farms out in cornfields someplace.
No. That's one thing that we always get from people. So that was something that you probably could have done back in the day with the FIT contracts where you were being paid for every kilowatt hour that you're producing. So you're getting a set rate. Now what we really need to do is with the new mechanism that's out there in Ontario is we need to find someone who has the demand profile for the energy generation we can produce for them. And
so you've got to find customers first.
Exactly. So that's part of one of the biggest challenges we have actually as a co-op right now is within what Ontario allows us to do is we are very restricted in what we can do. So we're always looking for, someone who has 3 things. They want to decarbonize. They want clean energy. They have an impetus or an inability to pay for it themselves, given the fact of constraints, or they want to know their cost. And the third would be that they're going to be there for a long time. So think of any schools, municipalities, universities, private businesses as well. But that's kind of where some of my work goes to in finding new, potential people who'd want to partner with us.
Okay. But not homeowners.
No, homeowners would be, the best way to put it is economies of scale. It would just be too expensive for us to enter into an agreement that if the co-op was able to say, hey, here's what we could do together, you would probably be better off just getting it from the grid. And we hope that changes with some legislative changes, but right now it just doesn't make sense for, members within the community to do it on their home.
Right. But homeowners, individuals, are still investors in the cooperative.
Exactly, yes. So like I was saying earlier, one of the biggest things is we find that a lot of homeowners, they wanted to do solar. They want to be involved in solar. They want to be involved in the energy transition, and they don't know how. So what CED Co-op can provide you is a different alternative. And what that is like I said, we pool together all of our investors' funds.
Okay.
We go out and we build solar to scale, where we then provide a return for our investors. So you're making money off the money that you've invested. We're creating a new project, locally within your area that's going to produce clean energy. We're getting one business or another organization, into, the electro state is what I would call it, or, the new economy. And that's kind of the idea we're trying to do. I call it the win-win-win. It's a win for, the off-taker, because usually we can do it cheaper than the grid if all things come equally. It's a win for the investor or a member who has now come in. They're making some money, and it's good for the environment. So we've got 3 wins there.
Right. As a homeowner, I found it horribly expensive to get into solar panels in the first place. And that's got to be the same for businesses. You go out to a school or a library, their business is not producing solar power. They've got a different business model altogether. So how do you get them to give them their roof space to you?
Yeah, so a lot of it is usually education. So first part of it is, we're doing a bit of education about what are your options. So usually when I, connect with a business or an organization, first of all, there's got to be some sort of an interest from them. My key selling points is always the fact that what we can provide them is a stability of what your cost is going to be going forward. You're going to know exactly what your power is going to cost going forward. So some people in their organizations, they struggle with their budgets financially, as energy has increased.
Oh, yeah.
They like to know exactly what they're paying. So that's the first thing that is usually talked about. And there is this, we're talking about climate and things like that. It's very near and dear to their organization as well. So those are the things that we start with. And we go through a process of, like I said, we've got to see if there's a match from the energy side. So if they're not using enough demand for what we're going to build for it to be cost effective, unfortunately, right now in the model we have, it's not something we can provide for help.
Okay.
But it is, this idea of, we sell the community side of it as well, which is, say you work within a building, we're just going to pick, say you're a teacher at a school.
Okay.
You could now technically invest in that project, which is generating clean electricity on your roof, if you became a member or investor in the co-op. So it's this idea of, ownership that you get with having it, and it's the pride that comes from it. And we see that at Rockway a lot. So these students there at the private school, they are a private school, so it's a bit easier for, the processes compared to, say, Waterloo District School Board. The kids got so involved, they actually have a meter on their wall where it actually calculates how much energy they're saving, how much CO2 they've taken out, and they have a sunshine parade, I think, last year and Thanksgiving. So it's taken on a whole new meaning within the community, and we've actually seen a lot of members and investors come from doing this project with them, and that's the goal we're hoping to do.
I can see that stuff being great in the curriculum too, some statistics for the math class, some physics for the solar panel technology and whatever else.
Yeah, actually, it's pretty cool stuff. So, a few of our board members through the years have had students go to Rockway, and they themselves have gone to Rockway. So there's a bit of a connection there to explain that, how we kind of got in there. Yeah. But yeah, there's a bit of a curriculum where they're actually teaching them, all about renewable energy. It's kind of almost changed their curriculum, which is, like I said to you, it's part of this education piece that goes on. And I think, when I look at this region specifically, I think we've done a great job of, in general, putting renewable energy all over. I see more EVs, I feel like, and I don't know if it's because I work in the industry now or just in general, but I do see a lot of EVs within, our region. I see a lot of solar within our region, and it's this idea of, keeping up with the Joneses. People see someone having it, and as a recent, kind of taking it in the same direction, as a recent, EV owner myself as of February, more and more people ask me about it that within my circle, being like, how do you like it? How does it work? And we see the same with solar as well. So, taking those ideas, and I'm sure it's happened in many other types of industries, throughout time. Yeah.
So you said that the students at Rockway have made an investment into the very solar technology that's sitting on the school roof.
Yeah. There's actually been a couple of kids who've graduated in the last years, and they've actually reached out to invest with us in our latest offering last year, which was quite interesting, and it was kind of cool. And that's what we're hoping to do. We're trying to show people there are other options. I'm not sure if you're very familiar with the term impact investments.
Tell me all about it.
Yeah, so really impact investments is there's a space where you're able to put your money to work, and obviously impact at the front of it, it has an impact as you're doing it. But there are, there's a couple of key metrics that go into it. It's something that you can measure. you want to be able to say, hey, by doing this, I'm going to create this. So that could be with us, we're building, renewable energy. It could be building affordable housing. It could be, helping a business who is not within the, won't fall under the same traditional lending. They won't have the correct lending profile from a regular bank, where we as the community can come together, make an impact, and invest with them and have it move along. So it's something that's very measurable. And this space has kind of really started to grow in the last, I would say, 7-8 years is when I stumbled upon it. And I feel that the momentum has continued to grow, especially with, some of the things we have going on with Canada, the U.S., kind of the trade tensions and things like this. And this idea for build in Canada, made in Canada. And it's a wonderful space. We're just one option within impact investments. Like I said, we're a part of the renewable energy side of it. There are many, many other things. And, I came from it. I think we were talking before we came on air that I came kind of from the financial side of things. And I've kind of come across it. And, it's just another option someone has. And it provides a different feeling than, checking your stocks every day and saying, Bell Canada is doing great. I don't know if I should promote radio or media, but, just picking them as a Canadian.
Famous blue chip stocks.
Exactly. And it's something that you can see and be involved in. And we talk about our members here. Anyone is welcome to come join CD Co-op as a member. We're $10 membership fee basically to join. And for those who don't know what a co-op is, it's really the original democratized type of organization. One member, one vote. And so this is the idea of what impact investment is promoting, is these options that you have within, your investment space.
Right. Are the people that have, or the organizations that have the solar panels on their roof, are they obligated to be investors as well?
No, actually, no. So some of them are. A lot of them I would say are. Some of them aren't. Some of them they have a roof that fits in a demand profile that, at the time made sense. And part of some of our earlier on days of, doing FIT and FIT 2, some of these people really wanted to just do their own project, but because of that stipulation of local ownership and, community ownership, they, in a sense, had to join. And then over time, they have come to become investors of their own money because they see what it's doing, right? Or they see the impact it has, and they see, this technology is great. So you don't have to be, but we do find that a lot of people will eventually start to, in some way or another, either promote what we do, join as a member, or invest.
Okay. So the investment that you've made and the returns on the investment is different from purchasing energy from SEDCO.
Yes, exactly. So we can't actually sell any energy under those FIT contracts. So the best way to describe it is, we'll talk about the two options. So in the FIT contract era, at no point could you take that energy and use it on site. What you actually did is every single time anything hit that solar panel, as soon as it hits the solar panel, produces some energy, it'll go back onto the grid. So as it hits back to the grid, that's when the government was paying you your 80, your 40, or 60 cents a kilowatt hour.
Even if you had high demand for electricity on the premises.
Yep, you would sell out and then you would draw back in. And you were making a bunch of money because back then the rates were set so high to create this whole new industry. Building solar back then was way more expensive than it is now. And so in that model...
But the returns were greater.
Yes. Initially, yes, as it started to roll off, but you had to put a lot of upfront capital. So we're talking, a few $100,000 for certain sizes of systems. Those systems, to build them, the panels in general, I think, are 98% cheaper than they were when we first started. Obviously, there's other costs associated with that, but it is much cheaper to do solar than it was back then. So hence why the rates had to be so high. Became a political issue in 2018. They were canceled, but in that FIT contract, you can't use that power right away, and we're not able to sell it to our members yet. And then the other option is the PPA, where we actually are, producing that energy and selling to them at a certain rate. What we would like to get to is what you're probably getting at, is almost community energy, where we could have a site. Say you had a brownfield site, a place that would need heavy amounts of money to turn into something.
Someplace that'll never grow corn again.
Exactly. There you go. And if we had a spot like that, and we could put a bunch of solar down, and then from there sell the power back to anyone who's involved in our co-op, or a member with us, and we could sell them the power directly, that would be great. That's community solar. But right now in Ontario, that mechanism is not allowed. Nova Scotia is one that's allowing it right now. It's just kind of coming to fruition. And Alberta is a deregulated energy market, so you could do that as well there.
Okay, so then the electricity that you're producing gets sold to Ontario Power Generation?
Basically, it's sold to the IESO, the Independent Electricity Service Operator,
Okay, so that
System Operator.
Here, that is Innova.
For here, your local, what we would call, your LDC, your local distribution company, is Innova. So technically, we're selling to the people above them, which is the IESO, so that Independent Electricity Systems Operator. They then disperse everything from a centralized place down through the system. So, you've got your nuclear out in Grey Bruce, you've got your hydro from Niagara Falls, there's power lines that connect it all. What we would be doing is we send it back onto the grid, it rolls up this meter, and every month we get paid for the amount we put on. And that electricity will be consumed within your community. So, if the solar is, say, in the building next door, it's most likely going to go onto the grid and just revert right back into your home as you draw it. But technically it goes to the IESO, which is the top of the chain, and then your LDC, which is Innova. They're kind of responsible for making sure that everything gets to you as well.
So the paperwork goes all the way up to high levels and gets redistributed. The electrons themselves just go around the corner back into your house.
Correct, yes, exactly. And so this is what leads to, LDCs. I hate using acronyms for people, so I know how annoying it
Local
can be.
distribution company.
Yeah, exactly.
I only just learned that minutes ago.
Perfect. Yeah. So your local distribution company, what they've got to do and what their responsibility is to do is they're making sure that as, solar is coming on, if you're not consuming it right away on site, so taking away the FIT idea, but just say you put solar on your regular roof, you're going to consume that power first, and then the rest is going to come back onto the grid. And from there, your neighbors will grab it, and whomever you want. You don't want to send electricity far because of what's called line loss. If you ever look on the bottom of your electricity bill, you'll see that. They don't like that, so they want you to consume it as close as possible. And they're really learning how to, I guess, I don't know if the word would be expand, or they're really learning to understand how to use renewables, because they are intermittent. There are very big pros, and there are some, difficulties that we're learning to deal with, but they're not something that, you hear from other people say, oh, you can't use it. It's, it's never going to be reliable, but either way.
And not just that, but the entire electrical grid was never designed for feed-in electricity in the first place.
Exactly, right? So the best way I always describe it is it was always designed from a centralized top-down approach. So you're producing, say, power from Niagara Falls, and we use that example because they went to school out that way. You're producing a ton of electrons from the water rushing through Niagara Falls. You're then sending along these power lines and sending it out to the communities. That was always the way we've done it, right? Centralized, you generate the electricity, and then you just spread it out as you need.
Right.
Whereas now, what we're getting with solar and other renewables, you're almost it's decentralized, right? You don't need to be from one spot to produce to send it out. You can just produce it on site, use it there, and use it amongst your area, or store it into a battery. And what this can do is cause when the sun isn't shining, there may be an intermittent electricity, so you're going to need to draw from somewhere else. So these grids they're really old. They're going to be expensive to upgrade, and no matter what we do, we're going to have to upgrade them anyways, and we might as well upgrade them towards the future, which is allowing them to be what I would say is flexible. Right. So as you need them to turn on and off, you can. So that's the idea that we need to get to, as other places in the world are.
Right. So it needs a lot more control stations to manage the flow of electricity, because it's now coming from the other direction that the current system isn't designed for.
Exactly. In another sense, that's basically it. You're going to have a bunch of what I would say is people generating electricity, and you're going to need to be able to manage where that electricity and the flow goes. Right. And there's many benefits to that, right? Like if you're producing electricity locally, it's not traveling far. You're not taking a natural gas that's being pumped out in Alberta and then putting it on a container and shipping it wherever in the world. It's instantaneous. It's right there. It's clean. It's immediate. You don't need any type of supply chain to move it. Right. Days long. It's minutes. It's seconds. So that's one of the exciting things.
Yeah. So SEDCO gets paid from the level above the LDC, which I've forgotten the acronym for already.
Yeah, the IESO.
The IESO. So they pay you.
Yep.
You pay your shareholders. How do I pay my hydro bill?
Yes. So you can take that money that you receive from them and pay it if you want. So some of those returns you could take those funds and add it and pay off your bill if you wanted to. What we find is, I think the number is about 74. I got it on my notes here. So yeah, 74% of our investors, for those who don't know what a non-registered investment versus a registered investment is, registered would be, think of your tax-free savings account, your registered retirement savings plans, your first home savings accounts, any of those.
Something tax deferred.
Exactly. Anything where you've got, tax sheltered or tax deferred, those would be our registered. A lot of our investors are in that. So 3/4 of them are in something like that. So a lot of them will keep, investing it for the long term and keep,
Right.
keeping their returns, putting it back in and letting it grow and compound.
Is that done directly at SEDCO? Is SEDCO maintaining those funds in a registered account?
We do it in a non-registered account. So anything, non-registered, we will hold with us. What we have to do for a registered is what's called a trust host. A trust host, the best one I can explain to people is think of a Wealthsimple or a Quest Trade or a Q Trade. If you've ever heard of these,
Okay,
these
you're
companies.
reaching into financial
Ah,
strata beyond my knowledge.
yeah. Well, we can't hold it directly. We have to use what's called a trust host, and they're someone who is allowed to hold your funds or your investments of CD with them. And we use someone called Canadian Workers Cooperation or Cooperators Federation. They do this for all types of co-ops and nonprofits throughout the country of Canada. So they're one of the leading people who everyone uses for impact investments, as I talked about. So, if solar isn't your thing, but you're looking at, hey, I want to build more affordable housing in my community, CWCF is a great place to go and look at, and they will show you, other options within, potentially your community or your area, and like I said, allow you to do it registered.
Right. And then the payments come, if I wanted to draw from those funds, then I would do that through this third corporation.
You would do it through myself. I usually handle all things related to, our projects as well as our investors and investments. So you just say, hey, Cody, I've got, say, as an example, Bob, you've got 25 grand with us. It's now grown to be $30,000 through the years. And you say, hey, I need $10,000. I got kid going to school or something like that.
Right.
You would just message me. What we would then do is because we are a co-op, all investments have to be approved by our board for sale. Just because of the way the cooperative model is, we'd get approved from the board, we'd sell it, we'd send the funds to you, and we do all the the paperwork there. So there's a little bit of help we help you involved with these things. It is a bit of a self-directed idea. Where you kind of have to manage it yourself, but we're more than happy to help and, anything you need kind of within reason that we can.
It sounds like you've actually got two different organizations going there, one to manage electrical stuff and one to manage financial stuff.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. We do. So it's gotten to a point where the co-op technically has no employees. So the co-op has a board of 11 board members. I know the one was on with you I don't know how long ago, you said a few months ago. Kim, she's one of our board members, Kim Charlesworth. She's one of the 11 board members, and they are, they're the managers and the stewards of the co-op. And within the co-op model, as we talked about, it is that one member, one vote. So it's approved and voted on by our membership. And what they do is, they have contracted out our services in what's called the management service agreement. And so we have someone who is also on the board, do our O&M, which is our operations and maintenance of our systems, where we're making sure we're hitting our targets on our FIT contracts, where we're able to make the money that we said we were going to make for our investors. They deal with, all the logistical types of stuff like that and the electrons as you're talking about. And then myself, I'm then contracted to do kind of the investment side of things. And we do receive some admin and accounting help within that amount of money that we've allotted. So,
But you're not an employee of SEDCO?
No, I'm not. I'm under, like I said, a management service agreement. I'm sure over time the co-op will change the model to be going to be employees, but it's just, there was a time where when these FIT contracts were made, we didn't know exactly, what would come from it, right? It was this idea that was being made, and we didn't know that we were going to continue to do new projects, such as the Rockway one for the PPA. So we're in a model of growing now and looking to expand, and part of the reason coming on here, obviously, is to, let people know you can join us as a member. The more members we have, the better for us when we go to, Queen's Park and try and lobby for some of these changes, such as community energy. It's an option you can invest with us if it's something that, that you want to do with us, and you can join us. And then the other option is if you know someone who wants to build with us. Like, there could be a project out there where you may not have the capital, but we can pull together our investors' capital and build a project and get, more solar being built within the community. So those are the three things I wanted to make sure I got out there.
So SETCO is a bit of an advocacy organization too.
Yes, yeah. So there's a lot of hats that I would wear. And yes, there's a ton of things that can happen. So we do try and advocate. And one of the largest things I'm trying to get us to is right now we're about 800 and give or take 870 members. I'd love to get over the 1,000 mark for members. And so
You'll get there.
Yeah, and I hope with the show that we're able to, get a few more members. And that's the goal, because once we are larger, we can then go and ask for things and talk to the government officials and say, hey, I've got 1,000 members here. And we're not the only renewable energy cooperative. I'd like to point that out. We're just local here to Waterloo region. There are some in Toronto. There's some in London, which is... I know the acronyms for them, so I don't want to butcher them, but there's some, Solar Share, LEDC, and then there's OREC, which is Ottawa Renewable Energy Cooperative. And we've all kind of gotten together, which has been great. So people in the same position as me, kind of working for them directly or in a management service agreement like myself. We have tried to go to Queen's Park and lobby the government. And we have successfully, come up with a few things that we've put forward to them. And it seems as though we're being heard, which is great. So it's just a matter of getting larger and our voice will get bigger.
Yeah. Because of the disconnect between the investment stuff and doing the actual installations of it. It's not community energy, as you said. I can see there being a possibility of having two organizations similar to SEDCO overlapping in jurisdiction. So
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the biggest things for the co-op, which we've always been trying to do, is we're not constructors of projects right now. What we would do is we find someone who would want to build a project with us, where we find a way where our power purchase agreements would now work, where we would then go out and say, hey, we know of a few builders that, potentially would be able to build this for us. And then we maintain that system and operate it. So then we can then pay back our investors. And what we're trying to do is create what's called the local economic multiplier effect, which is the idea where, you keep money within your community instead of sending those dollars out of the province or out of the region or out of the country. It stays in and it grows. And I think the stat is, if my memory serves me correct, for every dollar invested, you create $1.60 within your community. I know through the direct benefit of, say you made some money off of our local project, you go out and buy, you buy a sub from a local sub shop. That person then buys meat from someone, and then they then employ someone. So there's the knock-on effect that happens, and we notice that here within the region that we're able to keep dollars locally. And we have noticed, if you look around within this region, the renewable energy space is quite large, actually, in Kitchener-Waterloo, Guelph area, where we also are. So,
and not anywhere close to being saturated yet, is it?
No, it's continuing to grow. So as much as we could talk about politics or government or what they're doing or not doing, it's becoming a bigger topic, and they've created something called, this is a little bit separate from our conversation of community energy and what we're doing, but in general for the solar industry or renewable energy industry, the government has something what's called Save On Energy. It's more for large, heavy industrial types of energy users, where you can get almost 50% off a project right now to build solar up to $1 million. Because what they're finding is happening is, if you think of a really, really warm day in the summer, everybody's got their AC on, everybody's drawing from the grid. You get to these peak hours, and what they want to do is these people that are heavy users of energy, that they're just going to blast through that energy that we produce anyways on their roof. They're giving them a huge incentive to build more and more solar, and kind of like what happened in the FIT days, where FIT 1 paid you so much, FIT 2 paid so much, FIT 3, and as the adoption became more and more, the amount you were paid was less and less. The same thing has already happened with Save On Energy. It was 86 cents a watt, or to put it in perspective, you get up to $860,000 off. Now we're down to 77 cents, which is $770,000. So you're going to continue to see that iteration keep going down and down as more penetration happens with more solar. So in general, I don't think we're anywhere close to being that saturated, but it is a very exciting time to look at solar in general in this province.
So not being a construction company either, how do the solar panels get built? How does something get on top of the roof of CKMS Studios? Yeah,
so firstly, you'd give me a shout. You'd say, hey, Cody, I'm thinking about putting some solar here, and we would go through the options. Like I said, first we'd want to see if it could work where the co-op potentially could pay for the solar, for you, put it on your roof, so no capital up front by you, and then you'd be right away producing clean, green electricity, and then we would kind of enter into an agreement in that power purchase agreement. I would go through looking at the energy demand within the building to see, you know, would it match what we're building? Would it be able to work under, you know, those few options? And then what would happen is we have a few partners in which we work with. So on CED's board, we have a member who owns a company called VCT Group, which is local here in Waterloo Region, Kitchener, just down the road on Forwell. And then another board member, he owns a company called Crescent Ridge. Same business, they both do it. And then we also have projects with a company called Guelph Solar out in Guelph.
Oh, I know Guelph Solar. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So you might know... oh man, why is his name slipping me? I can think of the guy I deal with is Misha all the time, and
Okay.
He ran for the Greens. What was
Yes,
his
yes,
name?
he did.
We're both.
We're terrible. I mean, goldfish brains, the two of us.
Yes. Oh man, he's gonna kill Steve
Dick. Yes, that's right.
Yes, and you know we put out these projects and say, hey, you know, CKMS is looking to build solar. We think that we have to build it around this price point to make it work for both of us. Can you do it? And so we offer it to those three people, and we would offer it to anyone else who wanted to come in. But we have quality standards that we need to keep, you know, for our members and our investors to make sure, you know, we're hitting those goals and those, you know, there's things that come in with solar, and a lot of the solar industry, when it first came out, some people have given it a bad rep because they built things so poorly and not maintained it well, or, you know, the operations and maintenance wasn't there. And, you know, we want to work with reputable companies. So that's really what we're looking to do. And we go through our due diligence of, you know, finding the right partner. And like I said, first thing would happen is you reach out, we look at your energy demand, see if there's a fit, and then go from there.
Having the construction company people be on the board sounds like a bit of a conflict of interest.
Yeah, this is a great question that I've been asked about before. So what we do is, my role is to go find projects. So what we want is we want knowledgeable people at the board. We, as the co-op, we want knowledgeable people. It's not my decision who's voted in, it's the memberships, as we talked about. It's one member, one vote. They disclose everything that they're doing.
Okay.
I think it is beneficial to have a couple of people who are on the board that work within this space, because they are experts. They do see some of the things that, you know, that I might not see, and things like that. And so, and clearly the membership also values it as well.
Right.
And so, like I said, it's not that they get to decide anything. There's 11 board members. There's only 2 of them they're working on it, and it's...
And as long as you have open governance and transparency, then you can see when something goes amiss.
Exactly. And there are times where, you know, I'll have to present something and they'll have to recuse themselves from the room, right? You have to be out of, can't...
If they're bidding on something, they can't be involved in the decision. Yes.
And at the end of the day, what I'm looking to do and what the board's looking to do is what's in the best interest of our members and our investors. And so, you know, it is a great question that gets asked a lot, and that's the one thing that I say. It's like, I always say, we'd rather some experts on the board, so we know what we're doing as well. And we're not only solar. If, for example, someone knew a lot about, if someone knew, you know, about wind, or someone was really knowledgeable in the battery, the BESS space, so the BESS system, which is the battery energy system storage. That's another, you know, option you can do.
Chemical storage here?
Yeah, you basically put the electricity in, and then you're basically doing the reverse of solar, where instead of selling it back to the grid or selling it to your customer, you're holding on to it for when pricing is really high, and then you're discharging it to save your bills. And so we've come across a few projects like that myself that I've seen.
This is done locally at an individual site?
Yeah, exactly. And so these are things we're looking at as well. And so it's a matter of getting an expertise, and I'm very excited to try these new areas. But as we said, like, we want to be making sure we're stewards of the co-ops, our investors' money. We want to make sure what we're doing, we know what we're understanding before we're just trying different things. The whole goal here is to create more local economic multiplier effects within a community. We want people to say, hey, look at this building, you know, look where my kids go to school. It's producing clean, green energy. I helped build that. I helped, you know, to get this going. And that's the idea of what we're looking to do here. And as we talked about, as we get more of a voice at Queen's Park and get larger, we really want to be, you know, democratize energy, be able to say, hey, look, we're producing our own energy right here. We don't need any, you know, we get to do what we want with it. And if we're able to provide the lower, you know, cost to our members, that's what we want to do.
So really the government is getting in the way of providing that community energy model to make this even more efficient. Less administration, less overhead.
Yeah, there's lots to unpack there, but yes, the whole idea is I think they could allow us to do community energy, community energy in its purest form of what we've talked about, and we're seeing it in other provinces, and in Scotland, they also passed a law saying X amount of energy has to be community involved, because there is there's this knock-on effect about what we're talking about, right? And it's the local. You're producing electricity right on site. You know it's not coming from anywhere. No money's leaving. You know your community. It's staying, and that whole idea is continuing to grow. And we know this with, you think about food. I'm sure you've had people come on and talk about agriculture or food, and it's the same idea, but with energy, right? You want to keep it local, and there are benefits to it, and we're really trying to promote that. And I feel like sometimes we get caught talking about the financial side of it just because of I don't know if it's the political climate of it all or whatever it is, but there's so many benefits to doing this.
I think there's still the perception that solar is way too expensive to set up in the first place. And you know, the trickle of benefits that you get coming out, it's years and years to pay back. So.
Yeah, I think that's part of the reason why we talk about so much about the financial side of it, is because we're saying, hey, we can help you. We can do, your bills will be cheaper. Like the Rockaway example. If you ever go to our website, www.sedcoop.com, you could pull up what's called our offering statement. And our offering statement is what allows us every year to raise money within our members and our investors to then go out and build projects. Within that, it would have, the list of all of our projects and everything we've done. So what I'm going to talk about is our Rockaway project, where when they came to us and they said, hey, we want to do solar, we were able to come up with this idea where we could build them the system, which is this PPA model, and we were able to actually give them energy at cheaper than what they were paying from the grid. And so they're now saving money. They're now producing clean, green electricity. They have now created this spurring effect where a lot of their students see solar every single day. And the knock-on effect that that's going to have within our communities, years and years forward, about people being like, solar works. Solar isn't that expensive. There are other options to it. And we don't try to shy away from the fact that solar on your home can be expensive. And there's many reasons why people do things, right? Some of it's financial. Some of it is you just care about the environment, or you want to know where your energy is coming from. And there's always these factors that come into a decision. And I think one of the ones that always gets hit is what you're talking about, where everyone says it's too expensive to do.
Yeah,
but it's not. We're trying to provide a different way that we can do this. And if, say, you live in a condo building or an apartment, you can't put solar up right now anyway. So, this is another option, and it's trying to allow for everyone to be involved in solar is really what we're trying to do.
Looking at the website on the projects page, website is cedco-op.com. Looking at the Our Projects page, you're all over the region. A lot in the agricultural lands, the rural lands, the townships. Which I find a bit surprising, because I thought that the energy density would be needed within the urban areas.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. One of the things that I found quite interesting when I looked at our portfolio and discussed it, one of the biggest adopters of solar, and I for anecdotally and seeing it with other co-ops as well, is farmers. They were already used to being, living off the sun. They were one of the quickest peoples to adopt this. And a lot of our partners are actually farmers, which you'll see on there. And they'll put up those, for them it works within the FIT space. Remember how I explained within the FIT, you produce the energy, you sell it back. They're not using a ton of energy on site themselves, but what they are able to do is use the land that they have, put them on, trackers, or, put their panels down in their fields where they may not be growing, and sell it back. And they're now making double benefit. There is this new model called agrovoltaics. I'm not sure if you've heard of that as well. It's not something that we're into as the co-op, but in general.
Tell me about it.
Yeah, it's basically where some types of crops, I'm sure there's someone listening that's a farmer that's going to get a little upset when I explain it, but some crops don't actually want sunlight all the time. When I think it's strawberries is one of them. And what you can do is you can build solar, and then underneath it have the plants grow. So you're actually getting a dual benefit where your energy consumption is being lowered, because what they'll do is something called net metering, where basically it rolls back the credit. So in the winter, when they're drawing from the grid, they're just using those credits, and then they're also growing the strawberries. And what they're finding is their yields are actually getting higher from protecting it, and they're producing energy. So that's agrovoltaics. Not something involved with us, but just a quick little,
But you could put an installation that does agrovoltaics in as one of your projects.
We could, as long as the building had that energy demand to meet within the structure of that PPA right now. If the government changes options and says, hey, you can do community energy, absolutely. And these are some of the exciting things that we're hoping to get into. There is many, many options we can do. if the government was to allow community energy to grow.
yeah.
So that's kind of where our sticking point is. But like I said, farmers, one of the biggest adopters. We've got projects on arenas, I think in Wellesley, as well as it's Wellesley.
Linwood there.
Yeah, they've got the arena, and then the other small town, St. Clements, we have it on them. And then we have a few projects up north in Sudbury area. We've got some in Guelph, Wellington.
Okay, so you're not just Waterloo region, you're
No,
out there.
that's why I was saying. Remember, initially we grew a bunch of our own, started our own projects, and then what happened is, as other people were building projects, they may not have gotten to the scale or the amount of people that you had in a region, and so we were able to acquire some throughout the years, which has led us to the 118 projects.
Okay, it's bigger than I thought. This is good.
Yeah, we're all throughout Ontario, which is good from a risk perspective too, right? We have the local ownership where we can say to people in Sudbury, hey, you're getting energy directly from here. And if we ever get to that model of being able to take that power instead of selling it to the grid and selling it to our members, you're producing it locally. So it's that idea of when we get the mechanism changed, it'll be very excited from the project side, but it doesn't mean that we can't do anything now. And like I said, the biggest things are we're always looking for people to join us as members. You can invest with us when our offering statement is open. And, if you know someone who potentially might benefit from an idea of, you think they have a good roof and a lot of demand from energy, I'd love to speak with them.
Yeah. So I hope you do expand further into the agriculture field. One of the biggest things that I saw a few years ago was farmers asking to have natural gas extended out to northern farms for things like drying the silage after they've got it stored up in their silos. If they had locally available electricity, they wouldn't need the fossil fuel gas to do the crop drying.
No, and that's part of what we try and sell. Is there are so many options. It's just a matter of, like I talked to you about, the education piece. I've learned so much being in this field, and I've always loved it, and I cannot believe how much there is to learn and educate people.
Yeah.
But most people don't even know that in Ontario we have something on their energy bill which is called the OEB, the OEB is the board, sorry. The Ontario Electricity Rebates, so the OER. Mm-hmm. So on your bill right now, a line item in our government's, I think of the word, funding, they're, what's the word when a government has a, oh my goodness, this is going to kill me. Part of their budget. There we go, budget. A line item within their budget continues to expand and expand. And what it is when the current government came in 2018, they wanted to bring down electricity prices because there's multitudes of reasons as to why for it. But if you look on your bill, you are actually being subsidized by taxpayers through this line item in the budget. And it continues to get larger and larger and larger because we don't want the real cost of electricity to come through. Part of the reason for that is I'm sure they would not be good politically if you had to pay what really power costs right now. And so you're seeing there's a lot of these things that are going on, and over time, it's not going to be able to happen. You're not going to be able to continue to use that line item within the budget as it gets larger and larger, and it's going to be put back. So this example of a farmer, right now they think that maybe getting natural gas is cheaper for them, when in reality it isn't, because it's being artificially subsidized to be lower than what the true cost would be. And this is part of the education we have to get. Some people think we're crazy when we say, that electricity is going to continue to go up. I think in November it went up around 16%.
Which stymies me, because the actual cost of producing the electricity, the ongoing cost of producing electricity is negligible. The electricity that's being produced should actually be handed out for free. It's building the infrastructure to generate in the first place where the huge costs are.
Yes, and that's like we talked about with the grid. The grid is going to have to be upgraded no matter if we're going to stick on fossil fuels or not. And why would you take something that burns once? And I understand there might be circumstances in which you need it, but for the most, for summer, for anytime it's sunny, windy, anything of that. We also have battery storage now, which would get us back to the duck curve. I don't know if you've heard of the duck curve.
Tell me about the duck curve.
So what used to happen in solar was, think about all day you're producing so much solar, it's going onto the grid and going back. And what would happen is everyone comes home at night, sun goes down, there'd be this little beak at the end, and it would make it look as all the new energy demand that comes on from 7 to 9. They'd call that the duck curve. Okay. Well, batteries take up, so throughout the day with the excess power, instead of always sending it back to the grid, throw it into a battery, and when everyone turns on at night, no more duck curve.
So now you're getting the effects of community energy, but within a single building or a single organization.
Exactly, and that's part of the reason where we're seeing the cool thing for us is we have this community angle. We're able to talk about we're building projects locally. We're getting community money. It's your and my money and neighbors' money, and we're building the project. It's not some developer coming in and building it. We are technically the owners of all of these systems as a member, as an investor of the co-op. And what we can do is we're the ones who can decide what we're going to build with it. And the more we build, the more we are going to determine what type of future we're going to have within our grid. And that's one of the exciting parts of where we're at. And as we continue to electrify our economies, what's going to happen is we're going to need more electricity. And the provinces, with that one program I told you about, Save on Energy, you can see that they know they need energy and they need it fast. So I think it's a great time for all of us to really like educate anybody talk about it. It's these things right here. Like, we're only having an hour conversation. We're 50 minutes in, which I can't believe. But there's so much we can talk about. And even me, it's as I'm talking, like, I could go this way, I can go that way. And there's just so much to educate. And part of joining an organization like ourselves is we have these conversations. We just had our AGM, which I told you about was a couple weeks ago. And we had, our members come out to Rockway, our latest project, and we talk about these things in
Took the
depth.
members on a field trip.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, they all showed up. We had a food truck there, and we have to do the fun stuff, which is all the financial stuff of the co-op, and explain to our members, hey, this is what we're doing. This is how we're producing. And then we get into what we always do is like an educational type of piece at the end where we talk about what's going on. And last year's was about, the whole idea of Build in Canada, and we talked about how much building local community energy actually has a knock-on effect. And then this year we talked a little bit about the Strait of Hormuz and how when it closes, you are at the mercy of what's going on. Whereas if you had all your energy produced locally, you wouldn't see such a jump.
Fossil fuel prices have just been fluctuating like nobody's business. 20 cents difference across the street.
It's wild. And like I said to you, as a new EV owner, like, I couldn't believe, because I kind of you forget when you don't go to the pump. You forget. And I remember one day looking, I was like, 189. And I was like, holy smokes, right? Like, and I would have felt that pinch. Everyone would have. And you can see it. We have a chance to insulate ourselves from things that we are not, we don't want to be involved in. It's none of our, we're not directly involved in that conflict as Canadians per se, like you and me here. It's going on, but it's affecting us. And one way that, some people, maybe don't like what's going on, or whatever your view is on anything such as, a situation like that, this is a different way in which you can use your voice to say, I'm not going to deal with that anymore. And you will literally cut off the ability for that to affect you. So if you're not, there's no demand for that type of oil because you're producing it, there's so many knock-on effects of community energy and just renewable energy in general.
I can see that as electrical generation continues to grow more efficient, and there's more organizations like SEDCO to help bring that out to the population, there's going to be less and less demand for the oil, which is going to increase the price, which is just going to accelerate the migration of people from fossil fuels to electricity.
Yep, and I think we're already seeing that just in general. If you talk about EV sales, across many jurisdictions within the world, you are seeing that most people are switching to EVs, and part of it is just the instability of knowing what your cost is going to be. There's
the altruistic things too. You want to be green. You don't want to spew carbons into the atmosphere. So
exactly, and then the added benefit right there is that where you're getting, you're taking that carbon out of the atmosphere. There is that green aspect. There's a guy on our board member always jokes about the double green in which we're able to provide. It's like we can be, green thumbs. We've all got our green thumbs. We're all environmentalists at heart. It's like we can do that, and then we can also, it's a smart decision. So someone who doesn't really believe in the green attributes, great. You don't even have to talk to them anymore about it. And it's the best part is because no matter what we do, it feels like the momentum is carrying where we're going to get to that place. And you see it with heat pump adoption as an example in the UK. You see, you see it with transportation. Like it's happening, and it's really exciting. So
got a heat pump 2 years ago when the fire started. And sadly, because of the cost of electricity, we're actually paying more to heat and cool the home now than we did when we were on gas. Which, as you were saying, there's subsidies on natural gas, and so the true cost of energy is being hidden.
Exactly, and that's part of the issue. And it's if you've ever heard of the energy fallacy, about I think 40% of the world's oil is just to get oil out of the ground, to ship it, to drive it, and stuff like that. So it's there is this idea that we don't need to replace all of that fossil fuel, but through heat pumps and stuff like that. But part of the reason is if we can get more community solar or community energy, we can then drive down the cost. Like I said, if we got to the point where we could sell you energy cheaper, you'd probably buy from us as a member than you would from the grid. And guess how that
Exactly.
knock-on effect would go.
Yeah. Had a biogas generator put up in Elmira where I live, 10 years ago.
Oh, yeah?
And it actually turns out that the cost of shipping the goods to the reactor to be digested and produce electricity, it would have been better off burning the fossil fuels where they were getting the stuff from,
Yeah.
rather than transporting it out to Elmira. The calculation of the costs of where the energy is being used is more complex and somewhat scary when you think about it.
Yeah, and that's part of the reason that solar and wind and batteries and things like this,
Yeah.
especially solar, it does well because you can put it on your roof right there and you can use it right there. There's no transportation.
Right. People are going to be wanting to invest in this.
Yeah.
How can people do this? Tell us how we can get involved.
Yeah, so if you go to our website, saidcoop.com, and you reach out, there's going to be a spot on there where it'll say invest with us. And what we'll do is send an email to what's called our info at. You can send it directly to me as well, which is Cody, CINNES at saidcoop.com. I can leave a card here for you to put online as well, but please go to our website. There's a button which is the easiest. You click invest with us, or even just becoming a member, or if you just want to talk to us, like I said, about, if you have something that you think could work where we can build with you, we'd love to hear from you. And the whole idea is for us to continue to build more solar and create a win-win-win. It's all about this, community energy is allowing, people to become participants and not just be customers. And that's what we really want to grow.
Right. You said something about an investment window.
Yes, great point. So we kind of got on to other things, but yes, so every year we have to go through our due diligence, which is where we work with the regulator called FSRA, the Financial Services Regulatory Authority, and they will allow us what's called to do an offering. And an offering is where we put out the options in which we can put to our membership to invest in. Last year and this year, hopefully when it gets approved, you'll be able to invest with us at 6% interest rate annually, paid out in a quarterly dividend with our Class C shares. And we also have a bond, a 10-year bond that pays 4.5%. So just some quick numbers for people to know. The window last year was only 4 months. Unfortunately, when we reintroduced our bond, it took us a bit to get the approval, but we're hoping that we should hear back. I'm looking here, it's June 22nd. We usually hear about in the summer, and then we'll be able to, we'll be promoting our new offering as soon as it's open on, our socials and on our website. So just keep an eye on there.
You said socials. What are the socials?
Yes, so we have LinkedIn. We're on LinkedIn. We are on Facebook. We are on Instagram. And I was telling Bob that we're trying to get onto the Fediverse and Blue Sky. We're doing a bit of changing within our marketing and getting, access to things like that. So please check us out.
Have all that stuff on the show notes, which may be a couple of months before I get them online because I'm way behind. Cody Innes, thank you very much in telling us all about the Community Energy Development Cooperative, CEDCO, and opening my eyes to investment opportunities in the energy world. Absolutely great. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. I appreciate being here.
You've been listening to CKMS Community Connections for the 22nd of June, 2026. My name is Bob Jonkman. CKMS Community Connections is a production of Radio Waterloo, sponsored by Radio Waterloo. Executive producer is Jennifer Strong. Associate producer is Jeff Stager. My name is Bob Jonkman. Theme music in the background is by Stephen Todd. CKMS Community Connections airs every Monday at 3, alternate Fridays at 3, and I'll be back then.